Would you consider what is taking place currently in the Middle East a war because we continue to have our sons and daughters returned in caskets to the United States? That's a yes or no?
No, the analysis for Iran is different.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you agree with me then? Yes?
I didn't say that.
Okay, it's different analysis. So I'm just going to go with you agree with me because this is clearly a war and it's unconstitutional. That is the bottom line. And frankly, as it relates to Venezuela, I think that we still will have some time to determine exactly how bad it is.
What began as a budget question just became a constitutional one. Jasmine Crockett walked into this hearing with a number, nearly $3 billion, and used it the way a prosecutor uses an exhibit. Not to inform the room, to corner it. Americans are told consistently that there is no money for healthcare, for housing, for the problems sitting inside their own borders. Yet the money for this operation appeared without the debate those domestic priorities never receive. Then she asked the question the administration had not prepared a clean answer for. Is what is happening in the Middle East a war? Not rhetorically, legally, constitutionally. And when the response she received failed to satisfy that standard, the hearing stopped being about defense policy and became something harder to manage, a direct challenge to whether the United States is holding itself to the same legal framework it uses to judge every other country in the world.
I'm going to start with Tupac. We're going to start with the fact that Tupac famously said, for those of you that didn't necessarily listen to rap, that we've got money for war, but we can't feed the poor. And the reason that I bring this up is for two reasons. Number one, in order to get Maduro, the estimated cost is $3 billion. I can guarantee you that a lot of Americans would say, yes, there's a valid warrant and things like that, but for the cost of $3 billion, let's put our money somewhere else. Number one.
Crockett does not open with a procedural objection or a policy complaint. She opens with the thing every person watching at home already feels but has never heard said out loud in a congressional hearing at this volume. The money is always there when Washington wants it. $3 billion for an operation that was never put to a public vote, never subjected to the debate that a decision of that cost and consequence should require. She anchors it in a line everyone recognizes because the line already carries the weight of the argument. Money for war finds itself. Money for the problems sitting inside American borders somehow never does. And then she turns that frustration into a precise financial question. Was $3 billion the right use of the public's money? That question does not stay about the operation. It becomes the foundation for something much harder to deflect. A constitutional challenge the administration did not come prepared to answer.
Number two, Professor, you talked about the fact that if there wasn't the loss of life as it relates to our service members, or if this was just kind of quick boots on the ground for a second, then it wasn't war. So just answer this question for me. Would you consider what is taking place currently in the Middle East a war because we continue to have our sons and daughters returned in caskets to the United States? That's a yes or no?
No, the analysis for Iran is different.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you agree with me then? Yes?
I didn't say that.
Okay, it's different analysis. So I'm just going to go with you agree with me because this is clearly a war and it's unconstitutional. That is the bottom line. And frankly, as it relates to Venezuela, I think that we still will have some time to determine exactly how bad it is.
The hearing now moves past the budget and into the question that cannot be answered with a talking point. Crockett is no longer pressing on cost. She is pressing on classification. The administration's position is that what happened in the Middle East does not meet the legal definition of war. Crockett holds that position up against the facts already on the record. American service members were placed in harm's way, lives were lost, military force was used, and none of it went through the congressional authorization process the Constitution requires before a president commits the country to combat. The witness's answer does not satisfy her, and she does not pretend otherwise. Because the gap between what the administration is calling this operation and what the Constitution calls it is not a semantic disagreement. It is a legal one. And if the administration got that wrong, the strategy does not matter. The law does.
Because imagine for 2 seconds that you had fishermen and sailors that were coming from the United States, and Venezuela all of a sudden started bombing our people saying, oh, no, you're bringing guns, because let me be clear, America does their fair share of nonsense in other countries. We tend to supply everybody with the guns. We flood this world with guns everywhere, right? So let's say they said, you know what, we don't want all those guns going to the gangsters in our communities. So we're just gonna start blowing people up. And frankly, legally, that may work for them. You know why? We have a constitution and not everybody does. And so it is offensive to sit here and engage in this conversation as someone who practiced criminal law. And my God, everyone that I had, no matter what they were accused of, even if they were accused of capital murder, they were given an opportunity to actually show up in court and face their accusations, not be killed. So the justification, like, I don't understand why we are trying to make it partisan. It should not be partisan to just go and blow up these boats.
Crockett now picks up the administration's own logic and turns it around completely. She is no longer arguing about this specific operation. She is stress testing the doctrine underneath it. The position that military force can be used against individuals abroad who are labeled criminals, without trial, without extradition, without public evidence presented in a court, is a standard. And standards do not belong exclusively to the country that created them. She asks the committee to hold that standard in their hands and imagine it traveling. What happens when another country applies the same reasoning to an American citizen? What happens when they decide justice was never properly delivered on American soil and act accordingly? She comes to this argument as a former criminal defense attorney, and the weight of that background is not incidental. She has sat across from people facing the most serious charges the law allows. Every one of them had the right to appear in court and answer. The administration's doctrine removes that right based on a label. Crockett's question is whether America is prepared to live in a world where every other nation holds the same power.
Are you saying, Professor, that you believe that blowing up these boats because somebody believes it, you know what? Let me do it this way. Let's say they are drug traffickers. Do you believe that it is constitutional for the United States to blow up people that are accused of being drug traffickers?
So it's not going to be a yes or no question. If I could take
Okay,
a few
then
seconds.
I'm gonna stop you there because I only got so much time. And Professor, you know, I was really loving on you because you came from South Texas, which is down in Houston, not too far from University of Houston where I got my law degree, but it is very clear that it is unconstitutional for us in the United States. Let me give y'all another issue that I don't understand if y'all see it the way that I do. There's this little thing called the Epstein files.
With her time almost gone, Crockett does not soften the argument. She sharpens it into its most precise form. The United States would not accept another country conducting military action on American soil based on that country's own unilateral legal determination. That position is not contested. It is foundational to how this country understands sovereignty. Crockett's point is that the same logic cannot stop at the border. If it is legitimate for America to act abroad on its own legal conclusions without trial, without extradition, without presenting evidence in an open court, then the doctrine is available to every nation that believes it has an unresolved grievance. She introduces the Epstein files not as a legal finding but as a stress test. The names connected to that network span governments and continents. If those countries concluded that justice was never fully delivered on American soil, under the doctrine currently being defended in this hearing, what exactly would stop them from acting on that conclusion unilaterally? That is not a hypothetical designed to provoke. It is the doctrine applied consistently. And consistency is the one standard the administration has not answered for.
There's a lot of people that have been found liable, charged, all kinds of stuff, from Prince Andrew and Peter Mandelson, from Norwegian officials, the former prime minister, and the former ambassador, all these different people, right? Some would argue, especially since there was international trafficking that was taking place, some would argue that our president, whose name is found over and over and over and over in these files, may have engaged in, say, child trafficking, sex trafficking. They may come to that conclusion. Now, with that being the understanding, if there are other countries that believe, because they believe in actually holding people accountable, okay? So they say, you know what? There were some girls from England or wherever, because there were people from different countries. And they say, you know what? We gonna just come and we're gonna drop in on America. We're going to bomb America. We're going to kill civilians in America because you know what? We have a warrant for his arrest. Whether it's for the child sex trafficking in the Epstein files because America doesn't want to do their job, or whether we're talking about violating international law, whether we're talking about going and just randomly killing people, I can tell you that every single one of you that is sticking up for him right now would be screaming from the rooftops. The analysis has to be the same. I am so offended that I am still paying my daggone student loans for law school, and it seems like none of it matters nowadays, because seemingly what we do is we twist the law to justify. The analysis is the same. If you would be outraged if they came and bombed our country to go after him, to arrest him, if you're listening, that I don't know if people are doing this. But if they decided to do that because of the Epstein files or because of violating international law, you all would be against it. So we should be against it right now. Thank you, all yield.
By the time this exchange closed, Jasmine Crockett had done something most congressional hearings never accomplish. She had moved the argument off the specific operation and onto the doctrine sustaining it. The $3 billion was not the point, it was the entry. The real question she placed on the record, and left there unanswered, was whether the United States is prepared to hold itself to the same constitutional and legal standard it applies to every other actor on the international stage. Throughout her questioning, she built the case methodically. She challenged the legal justification for using military force without congressional authorization. She argued that due process is not a protection that disappears because the accused is dangerous or inconvenient or located outside American borders. She pressed lawmakers to sit with the reversal, to consider what American outrage would look like if another country applied this exact doctrine to an American citizen and called it justice. And then she used the Epstein files not as an accusation but as a mirror. The names in that network span governments and continents. If those governments concluded that justice was never properly delivered on American soil, the doctrine being defended in this hearing gives them a framework to act on that conclusion without asking anyone's permission. The witnesses rejected her legal interpretation. Crockett held her position. Constitutional protections and congressional oversight do not flex depending on who the target is or which party controls the White House. That principle either applies in every case or it applies in none. The public watching this hearing now has to decide which version of that standard the country they live in is actually operating under. That question did not leave the room when the gavel came down. It followed everyone home.